Hi, this is Jo Huey, and this is my personal growth guide for families of alcoholics. And it's a process that I want to go through in a little bit more detail to explain all the different steps. So for step one, we have awareness of the problem. So this is where you are more than aware that you have got a problem in your life, whether that's with a drinker or not. You may still be living with a drinker, you may not, you may be having relationship issues, whatever it is. So you realise there's a problem, you know it's there, but you don't know how to fix it or what to do. So you'll be feeling frustration and confusion, anxiety, overwhelm, maybe some guilt and shame, embarrassment, a whole host of emotions there. So then the next step two, is resistance. So this is where you feel it's just too hard, you won't cope. Maybe you feel hopeless, scared, shame and guilt. Maybe you think the problem's too big and it's outside of your comfort zone and you feel really uncomfortable, or you just don't feel ready to give whatever it is up. And you maybe tell yourself you can't change. So resistance is fear, and you know that keeps us from moving forward, and sometimes we can feel sorry for ourselves, why is this happening to us, feel demotivated, and you feel very stuck. Then we move on to step three. Step three is surrender. So this is where you're ready to face something new. You've tried, everything else, and you're just tired of trying every other option. So you finally give in and you acknowledge you've got a problem. You feel ready and open to change, and you're, at least willing to learn some new ways of thinking and being. So at this point, you might be feeling very fed up and exhausted and angry, maybe frustrated. And then from here, you move to step four, which is action. So action is about demonstrating in some way that you are taking some action, and that you are going to speak to friends and family, look at self-help books, apps, groups, all that type of thing. Look maybe for therapy, go to your GP, and you start to deepen your understanding of the problem. So at this stage, you might be feeling motivated, maybe proud of any steps you've taken, empowered and more knowledgeable. Now, before I move on to step five, what I want to talk about is this circle that you see. So when we're in a place of resistance, what can happen is that you can move, so where that dotted line goes up to step four, so you can move to action and, chat to friends, whatever the action is you decide to take. But then you go back down to resistance and you go round and around in this cycle, which I call the staying stuck cycle. And, this is on a timeline really, as you see it here. So it could take days, weeks, months, years, to move from one to the next. It really does depend on the depth and complexity of your problem. So once you have kind of got out of that circle, and that's done through, working with someone one-to-one, or, other type of work that you can do. And then you move to surrender, and then you move to action. Then you move across to step five, so self-awareness. So this is where you start getting some light bulb moments, you have some realizations, finally get some answers to those questions that have been going around in your head. And you start to connect the dots, so you might realize your part in the problem. What can happen at this stage before you move on to step six is that you can feel overwhelmed by that awareness, and you might overthink things. And sometimes that can take you back to the place of resistance at step two. So you can see that dotted line there. And again, then you will move back up through the steps to get back to self-awareness. So then you move to step six, which is acceptance. So this is where you begin to accept life on life's terms. You accept your responsibility, all of your feelings, and you start to give yourself permission to feel how you do. So you don't feel guilty about feeling, unpleasant feelings. You accept others and their differences, and you appreciate what you can and can't change. So at this stage, you'll probably be feeling, weight off your shoulders, sense of peace, relief and release. Then we move to step seven, which is where the work begins. So this is where you're putting in place what you've learned so far. You've learned new ways to cope, and you're putting them in place. There's lots of trial and error, and you're aware of any expectations you have. You need to be mindful of how long this might take, and having patience, and you might at this stage be discovering yourself in even more detail, even more depth, and noticing your behaviours, how you feel and how you think. So at this stage, you'll be feeling motivated and confident, courageous, maybe proud of the work you've done so far, and empowered. Step 8 is where the change happens. So this is where you're reflecting on the changes that you've made and the difference it's made to your life. Be mindful, again, this is on a timeline. So when you're doing the work, you might not always see the changes straight away. So you start to become aware of what you've done, you adjust as you need to, but also you need to be patient with other people, because when you make changes, other people are going to have to adjust to them, and they might not like that, so you need to have patience. So this is where you start to boost your self-confidence and your self-esteem, and you feel reassured and more resilient and able to cope with those difficulties in life. Then step 9 is contentment and peace. And this is where it's a state of being, really, and you feel at peace with yourself and others, and you feel more resilient, able to cope with life, and you begin to experience more enjoyment and fulfillment in your life, and you're more accepting of yourself. So here you'll be feeling, hopefully, happier. You've got that sense of achievement, you've worked through these steps and you feel very fulfilled. Then lastly, we've got step 10, which is transform. And this is a development at a deeper level. It's not just an isolated area or problem, maybe that you were having in your relationships, but it's where you're looking at multiple areas of your life and sometimes your own character. So this is a commitment to a path of self-development and spirituality. So this would obviously give you a sense of fulfillment, peace, contentment, and it's taking things to a different level. So if you can resonate, or any of this kind of makes sense to you, and you think, God, yeah, I'm at step 2, or I'm at step, I can help you and help you work through these steps so that you can get to that place that you want, which is hopefully peace and contentment. And this, as I say, can be used for, very small problems and challenges, or something bigger. So if you want to drop me an email, my website address is there. It's joe@joehuey.co.uk, or you can use a contact form on my website.